Today I'm making a cutting board out of a table, which I made out of a bed frame. Basically I'm using reclaimed wood. So the journey begins with one of our nightstands that I have built and have been confident enough to make a video about, breaking down completely randomly. The plan is very simple, cutting off the weird edges while maintaining the little curve. But unfortunately it currently is too big to fit in my planer, and that is definitely a necessary step in this. I really wanted to keep that little curve, and because it's just a bunch of pieces glued together, I thought that with brute force I could get it to size. Because I didn't really know what I was doing at that time. The tabletop turned out very bumpy, so I decided to do very shallow passes. Now I'm cutting off the weird edges. And because I'm only having a short fence on my miter saw, it ended up being a trapezoid, which I quite like. What I like to do when I'm still not quite sure about the design, or what exactly to do next, I'll start sanding, and usually it dawns on me very quickly. In this case, I now had an idea on what to do with the hole in the top right corner. There was still left from the threaded inserts that held the legs. I could have just plugged it with a dowel or something, but I thought it wouldn't match the aesthetic of the lines going from left to right. Instead, I wanted to make the hole a little bit bigger and have it as a handle. And what happens next is a good example for things that I usually like the most about my project, and in woodworking in general. I like to call definitely intended design choices. In this case, after drilling through with the 35mm drill bit, this little piece came loose. And now look at that cool shape. I didn't even thought about gluing that back in. Another good example is when I lost control over my router for a little bit when I was rebuilding my first ever woodworking project. That forced me to round over the edges completely, and that turned into the detail that I like the most about this table. Now back to the build. So this is the new addition to my workshop, and actually my first time using it. To be honest, at first it was very weird to have a router in only one hand, but eventually I got used to it. Oh yeah, and another piece came loose, but at this point I was in a state of just letting things happen. For the edge details, I chose to do a round over on the top and a chamfer on the bottom side. Now it's time for sanding again, and this time I actually got my hands on the world famous 3M Extract Cubitron. And if you would like to hear my honest opinion, it's true what everyone is saying. This really is a game changer in sanding. What surprised me the most is really how long you can sand with one of these discs before you need to replace them. Now I really debated if I should add a juice groove or not, but I thought it might look nice. And then came the next question, how can I add a juice groove on a curved edge? So the internet wasn't really a help, but the idea came to me to just use the parallel fence from the router and carefully mill in the juice groove by hand. The fence follows the curved edges perfectly, and I just needed to be careful to not overshoot it and stop at the right time. Now sanding the juice groove is always very random, and I usually just glue a little bit of sandpaper on a scrap piece and just sand it by hand. But if you have a better method for that, please let me know, I would be very thankful. Now for the last few steps, I water pop the grain, then sand it again and just applied some finish to it.